Hey everybody, Scott Willoughby here again from PlayFab, talking to you today about another live game operations technique and theory that I think you'll find really fascinating. So this last week we had PAX Prime and PAX Dev here in Seattle, and I went to a talk at Dev hosted by a friend and former colleague of mine, Nick Davidson, who's the lead architect for Magic's new digital games at Wizards of the Coast. Nick is a very, very smart guy and really good at looking at psychological cues and behaviors in designing games and designing player interactions. And one of the things that he talked about is a really, really cool phenomenon called the peak-end rule. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit today because it's a really good thing to think about when you're designing player experiences and considering where in your game's life cycle to ask players to monetize, ask players to give you push notification permission, ask them to do things that you want them to do. You want to do those things when they are interacting in a positive light with your game, when they're thinking good things about you, feeling good thoughts, all those things where they're going to want to help you out and do the things you're asking them to do. So the peak-end rule says this, and they studied this by, there have been a couple studies about it, some involving people sitting in buckets of ice water. The most famous one is with people taking colonoscopies, where they had them hold a little dial and turn it to reflect how much discomfort they were in, right? So over time, as they went through this process, they would turn it up and down to reflect the level of discomfort they were in. And then at the end of the procedure, they asked them to give sort of a subjective rating of how they generally felt about the experience. Now, somebody might go along and they're coming in and they're like, oh, this is not comfortable, it's getting kind of bad. Oh my God, it just got terrible. And then it subsided a little bit. You kind of go through and at the end they're like, uncomfortable, but I'm dealing with it. I've kind of gotten used to it. So you might think that their overall impression at the end was, oh my God, this was the worst thing ever. And this can go both ways. I have this axis as satisfaction here. It could also be things like dissatisfaction if it's generally considered a negative experience. So you might think their rating of the experience would correspond here to the peak. Or you might think that it would correspond here to the end. In fact, what they found consistently is people's overall evaluation of a situation, whether it be something as uncomfortable as a colonoscopy or as potentially pleasant as a vacation or a gaming experience, is exactly halfway between the two of these, right? So your overall impression of an experience is the combination of your best or worst moment and your final, most recent memory of the experience, right? So the way to apply this in gaming is to realize that when you want to ask somebody to monetize at any point, they're going to be thinking of your game, or if you ask somebody to rate your game or give you permission of any kind, their current impression of your game is going to be halfway between the best experience they've ever had in it and what just happened to them, right? So you want to think about timing these events to a place where this end point, the thing they just had happen, is relatively high. Because even if this peak was low, right, if they had a bad experience previously, it'll average out coming to that end point. If they've had a great experience way up here, it's going to average out as well, but it's going to average out to a higher point. So always think about providing a really positive experience, a victory experience, a reward experience, some moment of goodwill immediately before you ask somebody to do something. You don't want to ask someone to give you money or give you, push notification permission right after they've just lost a match for the 5th time and they're feeling pretty crummy about the game, like they're stuck and they're not going to get anywhere. That's how you create situations where people feel like they're facing artificial pain points, and if they make a purchase, it's not because they want to, it's out of frustration and they're going to feel mad about it. You want them to feel good about what they've just accomplished and look forward to having more good experiences in your game, and that's why they feel good about giving you money and good about trying out the new things that they're going to have access to. So when you're thinking about your game economy, when you're thinking about your communication strategy, remember the peak-end rule and always try to optimize for a good end, which you can control the end point at which you ask for things, and hope that previously you've made a good game and you've provided a good peak for that user. But this is the thing you can control, and you can use it to control the most recent impression of a user's experience with your game and their likelihood to convert into what you're asking them for. Talk to you next time.